before we get started, let me wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I know some of you all may be gearing up for Kwanzaa, so happy Kwanzaa to you. And before we get started, I just want to say this. When we go around and we tell each other Merry Christmas and Happy Kwanzaa, or whatever it is you're celebrating, I say these concepts, these terms. It's like I'm gritting my teeth, because it's very hypocritical of us to set aside a month where everyone is supposed to, goodwill towards each other and being all nice and giving gifts and pretending as if the world is not a messed up place. Pretending as if, there's this one month where we're all going to come together and forget all of our problems and pretend like there's not anything, like there's no suffering going on in the world, like everything is okay, and all we have to do is give each other gifts and say a whole bunch of nonsense, a whole bunch of stuff that really isn't true, talking about how much we care about each other and how much we love each other and the spirit of humanity and all this nonsense. And then you look at the world is a complete disaster. And we're sitting here going around, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. It's all fake. It's all fake. Do you think the people in Syria right now, do you think they're happy? Do you think they're having a Happy New Year? How about a Merry Christmas? Do you think they're having a Merry Christmas? Bombs being exploded all around. Children being blown to bits. Do you think this is a happy occasion? How about all the people that are starving around the world? And you know who the main culprits are. Why are the people in Syria fighting? They're fighting because they're desperate. Why are they desperate? People around the world that are hungry. Why are they hungry? Why are they desperate? Whose systems are we all operating within the context of? Whose world is it? In 2016, whose world is it? So again, I know this is Christmas and I don't want to be rude or anything, so Merry Christmas. However, I am pointing out the hypocrisy of it. This is not an excuse to forget and to dismiss people that are being mistreated around the world, including yourself. If you are a person of color, if you are a non-white person, you are being mistreated. Simple as that. So I just thought I would throw that in there. But today's show, it's a special show. It's the Christmas edition. And racism, white supremacy does not sleep, not even on Christmas. So they're out there working, and we need to be working too. Today we're going to be talking about music, and then later on we're going to talk about religion and the system of racism, white supremacy. Because it's through music and through religion, I think many of you all will be able to see precisely racism, white supremacy for what it is and how it works. There are Millie Fuller, the creator of the concept of areas of human activity in regards to race. He has 9 areas. I have taken the liberty to add health as an area of activity, which makes 10. So there are 10 areas of human activity, and entertainment and religion are 2 of those areas. And within entertainment, we're going to talk about music today, and then later on we're going to hit on religion. So music in the system of racism, white supremacy. Let's start off like this. I went to Forbes.com, and you can go there yourself. As a matter of fact, let me go there right now and pull this up. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm on Forbes.com, and I am looking up the world's 25 highest paid musicians. All right. Now we're going to notice a trend, and we're going to discuss that trend. At the top of the list is who is this here? This is okay. Give me 1 second. It is not acting incorrectly. The site. Okay. The first group of musicians, U2, the rock band U2. These individuals are worth $195 million. Second, Bon Jovi, $125 million. Third, Elton John, $100 million. Fourth, Lady Gaga, $90 million. Fifth, Michael Bublé. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. It's Buble. I haven't even heard of this cracker. But he's worth $70 million. Paul McCartney, who's almost like 150 years old, $67 million. The Black Eyed Peas, all right. Finally, we have some color up in here. $61 million. The Eagles, $60 million. Justin Bieber, $53 million. Dave Matthews Band, $51 million. Are they even still relevant? When was the last time the Dave Matthews Band were relevant? They were never relevant with me, but I do know at one point people were all on them, and they were some big hot shots, big stars. But when have they been relevant? All right, it's been almost 20 years. Toby Keith, $50 million. We're at number 12 right now, by the way. All right. Usher, $46 million. Okay. Taylor Swift, $45 million. All right. Katy Perry, $44 million. Okay. Brad Paisley, $40 million. All right. Again, we're doing the wealthiest musicians around the world. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, $38 million. All right, still going. Here he is, the boss. Claims to be such a big boss. Businessman, musician, power couple, Jay-Z, $37 million. AC/DC, $35 million. Okay. Sean Diddy Combs, another so-called boss, $35 million. All right. And then Beyonce is right up under him, $35 million. And then we have Tim McGraw, $35 million. Okay, come on, let's go. Muse, never even heard of these crackers, $35 million. Rascal Flatts, $34 million. Okay, Kenny Chesney, $30 million. All right. So I went over the top 25 highest paid musicians. Now, let's do a little analysis. With the exception of like 4 people, all of these individuals are white musicians, white entertainers. Number one. The other thing that stands out is that when you look at the people on this list, not only are most of them all white, many of them are old farts. They're old farts. I mean, Paul McCartney, this man was performing for Jesus. He's really old. He's over he's 1,000 years old, maybe even older than that. I mean, come on, give me a break. The Eagles, another band, another of Paul McCartney's contemporaries. These guys, the Rolling Stones, give me a break. And these individuals are way worth more than the so-called boss, Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs, who are business owners, by the way. These individuals are branding themselves and going around talking about their businessmen. And yet you have so many entertainers that are making more money than them. I wonder why. But anyway, let's keep going. Either the musicians are, well, most of them are white, obviously, but they're either old and not a date and should be irrelevant, or they just got started. Like, how long has Katy Perry been doing music? You see, I mentioned some other individuals. Hold on, let's go back. Katy Perry, Lady Gaga is another one. Rascal Flatts. How long have Rascal Flatts been making music? Really? I mean, have they been around for 20 plus years? Muse, another one. He looks like a young guy. How long have they been around? They're worth $35 million. Now let's go back. How much was Beyonce worth? $35 million. $35 million. Wait a minute. I don't know if she... Okay, so this is what they're paid within a year. So she's not worth $35 million. We're not talking about the worth of these individuals. We're talking about how much these individuals have made within a year's time. Okay, so $35 million for Beyonce. Now, Beyonce has been doing this for how long? And yet, she's at the bottom of this list. However, when you look at the amount of work she's done, when you look at her output, I mean, she's releasing albums every single year, has at least one every year, and she's been doing this now for well over 20 years. And then you have someone like Taylor Swift barely doing this stuff for 5 minutes, and she's making more than Beyonce. But yet, Beyonce is branded as the queen. She's branded as the biggest pop star in the world right now. And look at her. She's not even in the top 10 of highest paid. What's going on there? Ask yourself that. Why is this? Oh, is it because someone got the math wrong and the numbers mixed up? Katy Perry is making more than Beyonce. She's worth more than Beyonce, according to the numbers. But yet Jay-Z and Beyonce are supposed to be the power couple. Now you look at P. Diddy. Now he's supposed to be this big time businessman. And Jay-Z, by the way. And again, this is not anyone taking shots at these individuals at all. I am using these individuals to describe the system in which you live in. Because clearly, if you look at Jay-Z, P. Diddy as businessmen, they should be making more than the entertainers. You see, the entertainers are dependent upon the businessmen. They are dependent upon the gatekeepers of the business to market their material, to distribute their material, basically to break them off and give them their check. That's the role of a businessman. He or she starts a record label and they handle the business aspects of an artist's career. That's how it's supposed to go. Again, you look at Jay-Z and P. Diddy, they are branded as businessmen. They are presented to us as, oh, look at these big shots. They're such big time businessmen. But however, I look at them on this list. P. Diddy barely cracked the top 20 of this list. The world's 25 highest paid musicians. Barely cracked the top 20. And I don't even think Jay-Z is at number 18. So again, he barely made the top 20. But however, Jay-Z is known worldwide P. Diddy is known worldwide. These are household names. I mentioned Muse. Who the hell knows Muse? I don't know these crackers. The Eagles. When was the last time the Eagles were relevant? I don't think that the Eagles in 2016 are relevant in pop culture. Hell, they're not even household names. Why? Because they're not relevant in 2016 culture. But yet, they're like number 2 on the list. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I've heard of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Household names? No, I don't think so. And there's Katy Perry at $44 million. So what are we saying here, folks? What are we getting at? What are we saying? We are saying that the pattern is continuing. You see, the idea is that as a black person, I was told this my whole life, that because of my skin color, I would have to work 10 times harder than my white counterparts. And we are seeing this play out in the area of activity known as entertainment, specifically music. Beyonce, if we're talking about just her output, just her work, she's worked harder, she's done more work than any of these women I named in the list. But yet she's almost at the bottom of the list. If you look on the top 10 charts, she's always on the top 10. Always. Anything she puts out, it's always in the top 10. But yet she's almost like at the bottom of the list. Now, why do you think that is? Again, maybe they made a mistake. I don't know. Some of you all are, you all don't want to deal with racism, white supremacy, so you want to come up with you want to make excuses for white people. I don't like making excuses for white people. I like to be very clear and very accurate because I like the truth. Truth of the matter is that Beyonce is a nigga. Jay-Z is a nigga. P. Diddy is a nigga. I'm a nigga. If you have what they call black skin, or what they consider black skin, you are a nigga. What does that mean? That means that as a black person or as a nigga, you are subject to mistreatment because of your skin color. Period. Doesn't matter how subtle it is. So on the one hand, some of you apologists, oh yeah, but Beyonce, now she's doing well. She's doing well for herself. The white supremacists are paying her very, very handsomely. So, you shouldn't complain, and, you don't want to ruffle any feathers. Why are you so mad? She makes more than me. She's rich. That's not the point. We're talking about fairness. If she's doing more, if she's produced more, if she's doing more, then she should be compensated. Period. I don't give a shit how much she makes. Here Beyonce is. She's been doing this for 20 plus years, and she's at the bottom of the list. Not only has she been doing this for 20 plus years, but she is arguably the biggest seller. The most successful. Let's say that. She's always in the top 10. She's consistently moved units throughout her career, and she's at the top of her game. She has been, not just her game, but she's at the top of the industry, period. She has transcended. She transcended a long time ago color lines. Okay? And even white people in the music industry will tell you, oh yeah, well, she's the biggest thing. Recently, she may have been pushed to number 2 and number 3, but you get the point. She's been in the top 3, 4, 5 for a very, very long time. And for her to be at the bottom, of the wealthiest musician list, given that she's been doing this for over 2 decades, nah, something is wrong. Now I wonder what's wrong. I'll tell you what's wrong. Racism, white supremacy. That's what's wrong. Beyonce, like Jay-Z, like P. Diddy, like Jay-Z, like Usher. Beyonce is a victim of racism, white supremacy. What is racism? Racism is the belief in the superiority of one so-called race over all other so-called races. I'll say that again. Racism is the belief in the superiority of one so-called race over all other so-called races. That's all it is. Has nothing to do with, if you like black people, if you love black people, if you like white people, if you love white people. How many black people are you going to marry today? How many black people you're going to save? What black organizations meeting you're going to go to? None of that stuff matters. Somebody gets shot up. Here you are as a white person going to some candlelight vigil and holding hands and singing songs and hugging and crying, and then when the event is over, the black person goes back to the slums and you go back to your gated community. That's racism, white supremacy. Beyonce, Jay-Z, P. Diddy, for the amount of work they've done, for the amount of units they've sold, the amount of records they've sold, I guarantee you they are not being compensated as they would have been if they were white. This is a reflection of the system, folks. This is the system of racism, white supremacy. Black people are not compensated fairly. And you see this across the board. I don't care if you're talking about amongst plumbers, school teachers, lawyers, in academia, it doesn't matter. When you compare blacks with whites, consistently, blacks are on the bottom in terms of how much they're making, in terms of how much they're being compensated for their efforts. Period. So we're talking about music in the system of racism, white supremacy. And so far, what have I said? I have said that black people are not compensated. It doesn't matter what industry you are in. Why? Because of racism, white supremacy. Racism, white supremacy dictates that white people are superior and you, my friend, are inferior. Which means what? Well, when you go somewhere and you try to get a job, they look at your skin and they say, oh, he a nigga. They look at your skin and they say, oh, she a nigga. Automatically, that means that you are to be paid less than. Period. Doesn't matter if you're scraping up shit off the sidewalks, picking up trash, or if you're going on glamorous world tours, performing, in front of, in sold out stadiums. It doesn't matter. You are a victim of racism, white supremacy, and you will be punched in the mouth if you are a person of color, if you are a black person. So, I'm looking at the top selling rap albums because another aspect to the system of racism, white supremacy within music, the actual content. I hear white people talking about all types of stuff in their music. Everything from, some pathetic white man drinking his girlfriend's bath water because he's so pathetic without her. He has nothing. He's a loser, and he's gonna kill himself. You hear that kind of stuff. And then you hear white people talking about being patriots, how much they love their country, how much they love God, how much they respect their women. I guess this is primarily country music. You get a lot of this in country music. But yeah, white men, white women talking about how much they respect their husbands, respect their wives, how they're proud to have a family. Those types of positive values. And then these kinds of artists, they go on and they sell millions of copies of records, and they have big successful careers. Okay, you have white artists, they talk about religion. Remember the band Creed? Yeah. At one point, they were like the biggest band in the country. Millionaires overnight. Big record deals, big hotels, big cars. A lot of women, a lot of dope, I'm sure. But this was a religious band. Made a ton of money. I'm not mad at them. I'm pointing something out. White people can talk about all types of subject matter on their records and do really well. And then you go to black people. Then you go to the niggas. What are we talking about? If you look at the top albums, let's look up top rap albums of all time. Okay, here we go. So I just searched top rap albums of all time. Let's get a sense of what, as a black person, if you want to make a record and if you want to do really well, what do you have to talk about? If what are the limits of what you can talk about, if there are limits? Okay, so we are looking at the 10 best-selling rap albums ever. Most of these records are records for parties. These are party records, or these are records for niggas. A lot of killing going on these records. A lot of niggas calling women bitches on these records. Really of no type of substance at all on these records. Now you have Outkast at number 1, and stop that. You have Outkast at number 1, and I wouldn't call Speakerbox, a conscious record or anything like that. But Speakerbox wasn't. You didn't have a lot of killing going on that Speakerbox album. As a matter of fact, I don't recall them articulating or anything selling drugs or killing or anything like that on Speakerbox. That being said, a lot of partying, a lot of fun on Speakerbox. What am I saying? All these records, at least from the black artists, they're all partying, and or they're all talking bad about women. They're all selling dope, selling drugs, what have you. And these are the top albums. When you look at hip hop, when they say, okay, what were the top, the best hip hop records of all time, the most sold hip hop records of all time, and you look at this list, and when you break down the substance of what these artists are talking about on these records, Nothing of substance. Nothing of substance. Why is that? Because in the system of racism, white supremacy, music, if you are a black artist and you're putting out music, you're pretty much limited to what you can speak on. If you're partying and you're talking about, smoking weed or, selling drugs and how miserable your life was, all these things are acceptable. These things are acceptable as a black artist. You are within your realm to talk about these kinds of things. Okay? If you want to talk about, how many niggas you shot, how many women you've had sex with, this is all good. White people want to hear this from you. Okay? But if you want to address racism, white supremacy, then you better look elsewhere. Because I don't think if as a rapper, if you were seriously talking about racism, white supremacy, anyone's going to pick you up. Anyone is going to put you on their team and distribute your record. Mass distribution. I don't think that's going to happen for you. Why? Because white people don't like being called out. Music is very important, folks, because music has been used to get people to act. Music is supposed to move your soul. That's why, in the military, you have military bands. When people marched into battle, they did it to the tune of music. Music moves your spirit. But if you are a black person and you turn on the radio, and if you hear a black artist on the radio, what are they talking about? It's a whole bunch of shit. For the most part, it's real shitty. They're not saying anything. You look at the top black performers. You look at Beyonce. Now, this woman, she's not a kid anymore. This is a grown woman. And she, she's been in the game for so long now. She should have boss status. All right. When you start in something new, like some kind of a, society, if you're looking to gain membership in a society or a team or something, sometimes there's a hazing process and you have to pay your dues. Okay, that's fine. What I'm saying is that Beyonce is well beyond that. See, all the new little entertainers that are coming in, I'm talking about the women now. All of the new entertainers that are coming into the business, let them get on stage butt naked, half butt naked. Let them have to shake their butts in order to get attention and to get record sales. But someone that is established, still doing something like that, that should tell you something. There is no way in the world, given her status now, given her income, let's not even say her status, and not even income, given how much she's worth, she's made her money. There's no way in the world Beyonce should be out there parading herself like that on the TV, half naked, given the history of black people in this country. White men just looking at her body, that's slimy, nasty hands, nasty paws all over the television screen, just trying to, any kind of illusion of touching Beyonce. I'm telling you, that's what's going on. They are fantasizing about black people, about black women. They always have. And Beyonce, sometimes I've seen her in her performances looking like a sexual slave. This is not acceptable. This is not respectful at all. If you're operating within the context of your history as a black person in this country, these are the images black people are subjected to. These are the images black people are subjected to. You're not supposed to do anything but get on the television and be naked and sing your heart out for white people. And what I'm saying is that this is negative. Why? Because it reinforces some things that are thought about you that are not true. Well, they don't have to be true, but by perpetuating them, you're not doing anything to knock down these stereotypes. Black women are sexual objects. At least that's the stereotype. And all I'm saying with these artists is that they are perpetuating the stereotype. You see, on the records, black women are bitches. You go back to the top 10 selling albums of all rap albums of all time. Nothing of any kind of substance on these albums at all. I keep saying they were partying. They're talking negative about women. And most important, the albums are not being used, the music, I should say, not being used for anything constructive. The biggest problem for black people is racism, white supremacy. And you look at the top 10 selling albums and you wouldn't get that at all. You wouldn't get that racism, white supremacy was on the minds of black people at all. Because you know what? Racism, white supremacy is not on the minds of black people when it should be. Sure, you get to hear the symptoms of racism, white supremacy on these albums. So you get a lot of desperation and a lot of action because of people being desperate on these albums. But nobody is calling out the culprits. Nobody is trying to motivate other black people to understand their problem, their biggest problem, which is white people and which is racism, white supremacy. I don't hear any of that on these albums. I really don't. And one more thing about this list. You look at this list and you see that not most, but you see that on a list of 10, the top 10 selling rap albums of all time, you have like 3 white people on this list. That's almost 30% of the biggest selling rap records of all time are by white people. And yet, this is supposed to be black music. Now, what kind of shit is that? Does that make sense? Well, actually, yeah, it does. Because you were living, my friend, in a system of racism, white supremacy. So yeah, it does make sense. Eminem has 2 slots on this list. Hold on, I say it again. Eminem has 2 slots on this list. Eminem is at number 3 and he's at number 2. A white person. Yes, a racist. I don't care how many black friends he has. Let me tell you something. You all need to be very clear and concise with your definitions and with your understanding of racism, white supremacy. And you need to be consistent and not puss out. Equal opportunity for all of them. Because Eminem, he's a white person. He identifies as white, therefore he's racist. I don't care if you like him. I don't care. I'm sure he likes a lot of black people. I know he gets along with a lot of black people. Black people are confused about racism, white supremacy. Black people are cowards when it comes to racism, white supremacy. If we're going to end racism, white supremacy, it's important to be clear. Eminem is a white person. So he has identified as white. Identifying as white inherently means you are racist. Period. Can't help it. I ask you, what is white? What are we saying when we are saying I'm white? The same idea as when someone says, I'm a Nazi. It means something. What does it mean? In his thought, speech, and action, Eminem is racist. He thinks of himself as a white person. He is behaving as a white person. Doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad guy. However, be clear on what racism is. Racism is simply the belief in the superiority of one race over other so-called races. If you can operate in this system, if you can think as a white person, that means that that's how you are identifying yourself. You are associating yourself with a group of people that go around and mistreat black people, period. To the extent that you are associating yourself, to the extent that in your thought, speech, and action, you are white, you are a racist, period. So black people need to stop pussyfooting around the concept of racism and what it is, because all you're doing is you're confusing yourself and other slaves, other victims that may be listening to you. And last but not least, on this subject of music, I want to talk about the gatekeepers. Who are the gatekeepers in this industry, in the music industry? Because this is where it all starts. You see, I mentioned the top 10 selling rap records. And this list is important because this list, these artists on this list, I should say, influences, they have influenced and are influencing the artists from yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So this list is important just from that angle alone. Okay, so, but these artists are not putting the records out themselves. You know, you pick up any of these records and you're liable to hear bitch, bitch, bitch 100,000 times on one record. And I guarantee you they're talking about a black woman. Yeah, I'm gonna shoot this nigga, I'm gonna fuck him up. Again, talking to a black man, talking about another black man. Behaving as animals, not behaving as human beings. Okay? Not respecting life. And really, not truly respecting God. Okay? So, but who are the gatekeepers? Who are the people that are signing off on this shit, on this poison that's continuously being put into the communities? Well, let's look at the biggest record labels. You know, we have Sony and we have Arista. Is that the name of the label? Arista? But yeah, the biggest record labels. We have Sony. We have Arista. Warner. We have Universal. We have Warner. We have BMG. EMI Music Publishing. These are the big record labels. The big three, Sony, BMG, Universal Music Group, the Warner Music Group. Those are the big three major record labels. Now you look at the profile picture or pictures of the individuals that are controlling these labels. I guarantee you they are white. Now you have all these rappers talking about some, oh yeah, I own my own business and I got my own record label. No, that is not true. That is part of a marketing scheme by these individuals, concocted by the record labels themselves to sell records. You buy from these artists because these artists are appearing as if they're important and as if they're big men. But they really are just employees earning a check. You see, so it's white people peddling this poison in the community. That's what it is. And I'm going to need you all to understand that. You see, so Jay-Z, when he first started, like in 95, 96, there was a white person that had to sign off on it. They had to say, you know what? This nigga is pretty good. I like him. We're going to sign him to the record label. It was a white person that signed off on it. These are the gatekeepers. Many of them are Jews. A lot of Jewish people in the entertainment industry in general. But yes, many of them are Jews. Do you think a Jewish person of any kind of consequence, of any kind of knowledge of his or herself, is going to sign off on a young Jewish youth rapping about Jewish women, calling them bitches? I don't think so. But guess what? Jewish people have more self-respect than the people who are classified as black, than you. If you are a black person, we know it's true. Let's not pussyfoot around. Black people as a group, we don't have any kind of self-respect. We don't like ourselves. And this is why we act the way we do. But you're not going to have any Jewish rappers being promoted by Jewish people, talking about shooting other Jews, mistreating other Jews, talking about Jewish women, calling them bitches. You're not going to see that. You're not going to hear that. That is not going to happen. Why? Because they have self-respect. But a nigga, those who have been labeled as the people to mistreat, niggas, all day, every day. So Jamal goes up to the record label, and he goes in. There's some Jewish guy, with a big desk, big chair. Jamal sits down. Jamal wants a record deal, and he's looking like a sight of misery and patheticness. Is that a word? Patheticness. Anyway, Jamal is in there, and he's looking for a deal. He's looking like an accident about to happen. He just looks like a ball of misfortune, and he needs money. And he's trying to quote unquote eat, trying to feed his niggas. And so he's looking for a deal. And so the Jewish exec, he's sitting behind the table and he's feeling Jamal's pain. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is good stuff. Good stuff. The niggas are gonna love this. And he also knows that the white little crackers in the suburbs are gonna love it too. And so yes, he's shaking his head and he's saying millions of dollars. And Jamal sitting in his seat, slumped over, no self-respect at all, just hoping he can get some kind of good news, just hoping that he can get signed on to this record label. Okay, so fast forward, Jamal gets signed on. You know what I'm saying? He's living the life. The record label tells him, you're the best thing since Jay-Z. You're going to get bitches. You're going to get money. You're going to have houses, cars, anything you want. And Jamal, yeah. And it goes on like that. And as time goes on, and here we go with the refinement, Jamal starts to look at this cracker as a father figure. And the cracker in turn likes it. he takes on the role of kind of like a, second kind of a father figure to Jamal. Yeah. He's a good kid. He's successful, and he's on the record label, and we've watched him mature. He's a great young man. He's a good man. Meanwhile, on these records, Jamal talking about how many women he's had sex with, how many niggas he's shot, how many parties he's gone to. You know what I'm saying? Nothing constructive, nothing to combat racism, white supremacy. But yet he's a good man. He's doing good things for his people. He has a voice. He's the voice of his generation. This is all the kinds of shit you hear from the music publications when they're talking about niggas, black artists. They prop them up as if they're really important and doing something constructive, when really they're nothing but victims. They don't know what they're doing. They're just they're making money, and you have to make money in the system of racism, white supremacy. No one is faulting them for that. However, I'm talking about the control. They control the music. They're controlling the messages. Fool, wake up. It's poison. So anyway, Jamal is looked at as, such a great individual. Oh, he's such a lyricist. Oh, look at how big and bad he is. Oh, and then of course, he has on every rap album, he has one song where he's talking about his mama, how much he loves his mama, how he was wrong to his mama and now he wants forgiveness. All that bullshit. And then, you may have one song where he's kind of remotely positive and saying something of constructive value. Maybe he is articulating just a tad bit racism, white supremacy. But then for the next 25 million songs, he goes right back to running his mouth and talking about how many niggas he's shot and how many hoes he's fucked and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the record label, the record exec, Jew, he is taking on Jamal as a father figure. And, they spend time together, when they have meetings about record sales or concerts or promotions or whatever. Jamal is his boy. That's his boy. Everyone knows it. Oh, yes. Jamal is Mr. Goldstein's favorite artist. It's like his son. And, they've gotten close, and Jamal has even gotten into the habit of talking about some of his sexual exploits with Goldstein. Goldstein is married. See, Goldstein is the Jewish exec. He's the music exec. Goldstein is married. He has a family. But he lives vicariously through Jamal. You see, a lot of white people, they tend to live vicariously through people. This is why reality TV is so big. This is why you have a culture in which celebrities are worshipped. Hell, this is why so many white people who financially are not doing much better than black people are okay. They're fine with it. Why? Because they are a culture of people that submit to the idea of hierarchy. And the people that are on the bottom, they compensate by living vicariously through those that are at the top. I'm telling you, it's true. Just look out for that. But anyway, Goldstein and Jamal are like father and son. And Jamal talks about his sexual exploits, talks about his experiences on the road. And then all of a sudden, Jamal breaks the news to him. He says, I've been seeing your daughter now for 2 months. I think it's getting serious. Oh, Jamal. Damn, Jamal, you shouldn't have said that. That nigga went from being his second son to public enemy number one. Just like that. Why? Because at the end of the day, you are black, and unfortunately that means something. I don't give a shit how many records you sold. I don't care how many one-to-ones you had with this man. He is white. I don't give a shit if he's Jewish. His biggest identifier is that of white. and you are black, and you are a threat to him, this is why your music is put out there in the first place. He doesn't care about black people. He thinks of black people as second rate. So yeah, second rate people, second rate music. That's why the music is not of any substance. But now you're talking about combining with his family? Nigga, are you crazy? You see, in this white man's mind, he's thinking of all of the financial implications. He's thinking about, what does this mean? So when he passes, is he gonna pass the wealth to my daughter? If when I pass, a lot of my wealth is gonna go to a nigga. How much of his family is gonna get it? He's thinking along those lines. And truth be told, he's also thinking of white supremacy. How can I, as a white person, put up with being family, trying to create a family with a person that my group collectively is mistreating? Oh, and that, by the way, I, as a person who identify as white, am endorsing. How can that work? It can't work. That's the issue with black people. We don't understand that. We're not understanding that these people want to keep their distance from us. Most of them do. And to the extent that you have some that say, oh, no, that's not true, I would imagine that's probably them being refined, or maybe being confused, but I highly doubt that. All right, I'll stop there. I'm going to take a quick break. This is the Christmas edition, so I'm going to take a quick break and I will come right back. You are listening to the Barbershop right here on CobrasInAction.org. Be right back.